When I think about electricity, I usually picture like lightning bolts, or maybe that static shock you get from a doorknob in winter. But you wouldn't believe this. The insect world is using electricity in ways that, like when I started researching this, completely threw my mind.
It's true. They really have. Insects have found ways to use this invisible force to do some pretty amazing things.
Right. And we've got a whole bunch of scientific articles, research studies, and even news reports all about this. So in this deep dive, we're going to try to understand how insects generate and use static electricity. And what I'm really curious about is like, why does it even matter for them and for us?
Well, I think what you'll find is that this force is kind of woven into their lives in ways you might not expect, like how they find food or how they avoid danger, even how they reproduce. It really changes how we think about insects.
Okay, let's dive in. So the research makes it clear insects are literally charged up. But how does that even happen?
Well, it all starts with something called the triboelectric series. And basically what that is it's ranking materials based on how easily they gain or lose electrons when they touch.
So like when you rub a balloon on your hair and it makes that like static crackle.
Exactly. That's a perfect example. That's triboelectricity in action. And for insects, just moving around their environment, like touching a leaf or landing on a branch, can generate a charge.
So just by walking around, they're building up static.
Exactly. And according to the triboelectric series, dry wood tends to cause a positive charge buildup. So an insect walking on like a dry branch would become positively charged just from that contact.
Wow, I never even thought about it like that. But it sounds like things get even more interesting when they take flight.
Absolutely, because now you've got friction with air molecules. So the flapping of their wings is creating this constant friction, and that's what builds up the positive charge on their bodies.
So the more they fly, the more charge they get.
Precisely. And there's some research showing that swarms of insects, like, those massive clouds of locusts or honeybees, they can actually generate enough static electricity to rival, are you ready for this? Storm clouds?
Wait, seriously, insect swarms are basically like mini thunderstorms. I mean, we all know swarms are impressive, but that's on a whole other level.
It really is. And actually, researchers are looking into whether this collective electrical activity from swarms might actually influence local weather pattern. Could they be attracting rain or even triggering lightning? It's pretty mind-boggling.
Okay, you have officially blown my mind. It makes you wonder if maybe we've underestimated the impact of even the smallest creatures. But let's shift gears a bit. How are insects actually using all this electricity?
Well, one of the most fascinating examples is pollination. It turns out some insects are actually using static to attract pollen, almost like a tiny tractor beam.
Really, I thought it was all about bees landing on flowers and carrying pollen on their legs.
Well, yeah, that's definitely part of it, but a recent study in the Journal of the Royal Society Interface found that butterflies and moths are using static electricity to pull pollen towards them from a distance.
So they don't even have to land on the flower to get the pollen.
Not necessarily. As they fly, their positive charge creates an electric field around them, and that field can actually pull pollen grains through the air, sometimes from several millimeters away.
Wow, that's amazing. How much pollen are we talking about here?
Well, the study found that an average butterfly carry a charge of about 50 picocoulombs could attract over 100 pollen grains at a time. So it's quite a significant amount.
Okay, so it's not just a random cool trick. There's like a real benefit to using static for pollination.
Exactly. And scientists believe that this ability developed through natural selection, right? So those butterflies and moths that could harness static electricity for pollination, they had a better chance of survival and passing on their genes.
That makes sense. The more efficient you are at getting pollen, the more likely you are to reproduce. But is this the same for all butterflies and moths?
That's where things get even more intriguing. Research shows that the amount of charge can actually vary between species and seems to be tied to where they live and their specific roles in the ecosystem. For example, butterflies in temperate regions tend to have a high positive charge, maybe because they need a stronger pull to detect and attract pollen in those environments.
So the strength of their static charge is almost like an adaptation to their specific habitat.
That's what the research suggests. But here's another interesting twist. In the tropics, where there are more predators, butterflies are more likely to have a negative charge.
Wait, so a negative charge helps them survive. But how does that work?
It's still an area of active research, but some scientists believe that a negative charge could help them blend in better with the background electrical environment, or maybe even disrupt the sensory systems of some predators. It's like an invisibility cloak, but made of electricity.
Wow, so static electricity is literally a matter of life and death for these insects.
It really shows you how this seemingly simple force can play a huge role in their survival.
Okay, I'm definitely seeing how this changes our whole perspective on insects.
And we're just getting started. Now that we've seen how butterflies are using static for pollination, let's explore another fascinating pollinator, Bees. But their relationship with electricity goes way beyond just
Oh
flowers.
no, bees are definitely buzzing with something more than just wings, right? I read that they're using electroreception for both navigation and communication.
You're absolutely right. Bees are practically swimming in a sea of electrical information.
Okay, so how does that work? Do they have some kind of special sensory organ for detecting electrical fields?
Well, it depends on the type of bee. Honeybees, for example, use their antenna to sense the electric fields around flowers. But bumblebees, on the other hand, use tiny hairs all over their bodies to detect these fields.
So different bees have evolved different ways to sense the same thing. That's fascinating. But why are they sensing the electrical fields around flowers in the first place?
It's all about finding nectar. Flowers actually have a naturally occurring negative charge, and bees can sense that. It's like a beacon signaling to the bees, hey, I've got nectar over here.
So the bees are basically using electricity to find their food. That's incredible.
It is, but it gets even more complex. When a bee lands on a flower, some of its positive charge transfers to the flower, neutralizing that negative charge.
So by landing, the bee is changing the electrical field of the flower.
Exactly, and other bees can sense that change. It's like a signal saying, this flower's already been visited, move along.
So they're using static electricity to communicate with each other. It's like their own secret language.
That's one way to think about it. And this type of electrical communication might not be limited to just flowers. There's some really intriguing research suggesting that bees might also be generating electrical signals during their waggle dance.
You mean that dance they do to tell each other where to find food?
Exactly. We're not sure yet if it's intentional communication or just a side effect that other bees have learned to interpret, but the possibilities are mind-blowing.
It makes you wonder if we're just scratching the surface of understanding how complex their communication really is.
We definitely are. And this idea of electrical communication opens up a whole new way of thinking about how insects interact with each other and with their environment.
Okay, I'm ready for more. What else can they do with this electrifying ability?
Well, so far we've talked about how insects use static electricity to find food and communicate with each other, but it can also be a powerful tool for defense.
Oh, right. I read something about caterpillars being able to sense the electric fields of wasps. That sounds pretty creepy.
It is, but also pretty ingenious. Caterpillars have these tiny hairs on their bodies that are incredibly sensitive to changes in electric fields. And what's remarkable is that they've evolved to respond specifically to the electrical signature produced by the wingbeats of their predators.
So they can sense a wasp coming before they even see it.
Exactly. It's like having a built-in radar system for detecting danger.
That's amazing. Do any other insects use this kind of early warning system?
We're still learning about the full extent of electroreception in insects, but this discovery with caterpillars suggests it might be much more widespread than we originally thought. It really makes you wonder what other creatures might be using electroreception that we haven't even discovered yet.
You're right. It's like we've been looking at the insect world with blinders on, and now we're starting to see this whole other dimension of their senses.
Absolutely. And it's not just about discovering new things, it's about understanding the potential impact of our own actions on this delicate sensory system. For example, all the electric fields generated by our technology, power lines, cell towers, all of that could be interfering with insects' ability to sense their surroundings.
So we might be unknowingly disrupting a crucial part of their lives.
That's a very real possibility and something we need to consider more carefully as we develop and deploy new technologies. But let's not get too bogged down in the negative. Let's switch gears to something a bit more, well, sticky. Have you ever heard about the connection between static electricity and spider webs?
Spider webs. I have to admit, I was skeptical at first, but the research I read is pretty amazing. I had no idea static electricity played such a role.
It's a fascinating example, and it all started with simple observation. A researcher was playing with his daughter's magic wand, the kind that generates static electricity, and he noticed that it attracted spider webs. That got him thinking, could the same thing be happening with insects?
So a playful moment with his daughter led to a scientific breakthrough. That's a great reminder that we can find inspiration in the most unexpected places.
Exactly, and the researcher's hunch was right. Further experiments confirm that spider webs are especially effective at catching insects that carry an electric charge.
So the static charge is actually pulling the insect towards the web. It's like the web is setting a trap.
Precisely. The insect is literally drawn to its doom by the electric forces at play. And here's another incredible detail. The glue on spider webs isn't just sticky, it's also conductive.
Conductive, meaning it can carry an electrical current.
Right. And that means it attracts all sorts of charged particles, not just insects.
So things like pollen, dust, maybe even pollution.
Exactly. And that's why some scientists are now exploring the use of spider webs as environmental indicators. By analyzing the particles trapped in a web, they can get a snapshot of the pollutants present in a specific area. It's a really clever application of this seemingly simple force.
That's so cool. Okay, this is all blowing my mind. I had no idea static electricity played such a big role in the insect world. It's like we've been looking at insects our whole lives, but missing this entire layer of their existence.
It really is a hidden world, and it's only just beginning to reveal its secrets.
It really makes you wonder, what else don't we know about insects? I mean, we've been studying them for centuries, but it feels like we're only just scratching the surface.
I completely agree. This whole idea of electroreception opens up so many new avenues of research and really makes you question everything we thought we knew about how insects experience the world.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of fascinating ground here. Butterflies attracting pollen bees, navigating with electric fields, caterpillars, sensing predators. It's mind-boggling. But before we get too carried away with all the cool facts, I think it's important to step back and consider, like, what does all this really mean? What are the big picture implications?
That's a crucial question. It's easy to get caught up in the wow factor, but the real value comes from understanding how this knowledge can change our approach to insects and the environment.
So where do we even begin?
Well, for starters, this knowledge completely changes our understanding of how insects interact with their environment and each other. We've traditionally focused on things like sight, smell, and sound, but now we have to add this whole other dimension of electroreception. It's like realizing there's an entire color spectrum we've been blind to.
And that's got to have implications for things like pest control and agriculture, right? I mean, if we can understand how insects use electrical fields, maybe we can develop new ways to manage them.
Exactly. Instead of relying on broad-spectrum pesticides, which can harm beneficial insects and the environment, we could potentially manipulate electrical fields to target specific pests. It could be a much more sustainable and environmentally friendly approach.
That's a really exciting possibility. So we could potentially repel harmful insects while attracting beneficial ones like pollinators.
Precisely. And there's even research exploring how to use electrical fields to enhance pollination, potentially leading to higher crop yields.
So this isn't just about understanding insect behavior. It has real-world applications that could benefit both the environment and agriculture.
Absolutely. And it doesn't stop there. Understanding insect electroreception could also inspire new technologies in fields like robotics and sensor development.
Okay, now that's interesting. How could insect electroreception inform robot design?
Well, think about it. Insects are incredibly efficient at navigating complex environments and responding to subtle changes in their surroundings. If we can figure out how to mimic their electroreception abilities, we could create robots that are more agile, adaptable, and energy efficient.
So imagine tiny robots that can fly through forests, pollinate crops, or even search for survivors in disaster zones, all inspired by the way insects use electricity. The possibilities are incredible.
They really are. And it's a perfect example of biomimicry, where we look to nature for inspiration and solutions to technological challenges. But with all this potential, we also have to remember the responsibility that comes with it.
Right, earlier we talked about how the electric fields generated by our technology could be interfering with insect behavior. Are there any concrete steps we can take to minimize our impact?
That's an important point. As we delve deeper into this field, we need to be mindful of the potential consequences for insects and the balance of ecosystems. It starts with awareness, understanding that our actions have ripple effects we might not even be aware of.
So what can we do?
Well, on a personal level, we can make choices to reduce our own electromagnetic footprint. Things like limiting our use of wireless devices when possible, supporting the development of more energy-efficient technologies, and advocating for responsible infrastructure planning that takes insect electrodeception into account.
Those are great ideas. It's a reminder that even small changes can make a difference. But back to the insects themselves, you mentioned earlier that we're just scratching the surface of understanding them. What are some of the big unanswered questions in this field? What are scientists still trying to figure out?
One of the biggest mysteries is how widespread electroreception really is in the insect world. We know butterflies, bees, and caterpillars use it, but what about other insects? Do they all have some level of sensitivity to electrical fields? And if so, how are they using it?
That's a great question. It makes you wonder, could there be insects out there using electricity in ways we haven't even imagined yet? What other senses or abilities might we be completely unaware of?
It's definitely possible. We're constantly discovering new things about the natural world, and the more we learn about insects, the more we realize how much they can teach us.
I love that perspective. We often think of ourselves as the most intelligent species on the planet, but insects have been solving complex problems and adapting to their environment for millions of years. We have a lot to learn from them.
Absolutely. And this whole area of insect electroreception is just one example of how much we still have to discover about the natural world.
Okay, I am officially hooked. But before we spiral too far down the rabbit hole of what else we don't know, maybe it would be helpful to recap what we have learned today. It feels like we've covered so much ground.
That's a good idea. It's easy to get lost in all the details, but sometimes it's helpful to pull back and see the big picture.
So to recap, insects can build up static charges through contact with different surfaces and through friction when they fly. And they've evolved to use these charges in some pretty amazing ways.
Exactly. We talked about butterflies and moths using static to attract pollen bees, using it to navigate, communicate, and find nectar caterpillars, using it to sense predators, and even spider webs, taking advantage of insects' electrical charges to catch their prey.
It's pretty mind-blowing to think that something as seemingly simple as static electricity can play such a crucial role in the lives of so many creatures. And to think it's all happening right under our noses, completely invisible to us.
It really highlights the fact that there's so much more to the world than what we can see with our own eyes. There are hidden forces at play, shaping life in ways we're only beginning to understand.
And that brings us back to one of the big questions we started with. What does all this mean for us?
It's a challenge and an opportunity. We have a responsibility to learn more about these hidden forces, to understand how our actions might be impacting them, and to find ways to coexist with the natural world in a way that benefits both us and all the other creatures we share this planet with.
I completely agree. It's like we're being given a glimpse into a secret world, and it's up to us to decide how we're going to use that knowledge.
But beyond the practical implications, there's also a sense of wonder and awe that comes with understanding this side of nature. It reminds us that there's so much we don't know, so much left to explore, so much to be amazed by.
And that's the beauty of science, right? It's a never-ending journey of discovery.
Exactly. And who knows what other amazing things we'll find as we continue to delve deeper into the electrifying world of insects.
Well, before we wrap up completely, I think it's time to give our listeners a little something to ponder, something to spark their own curiosity about the unseen forces shaping the world around us. What do you think?
I love that idea. Let's leave them with a thought-provoking question that builds on what we've discussed but takes it a step further.
All right, listeners, here's your challenge. We spent this deep dive talking about how insects generate and use static electricity. But what about other organisms? Could plants be using electrical fields in ways we haven't even considered?
It's a fascinating question. We know plants are incredibly sensitive to their environment. They respond to light, temperature, even touch. Could they also be sensing and responding to subtle changes in electrical fields?
And if so, what could that mean for our understanding of plant behavior, communication, and even evolution? I mean, we've talked about how bees change the electrical field of a flower when they land on it. Could that be a form of communication between the plant and the bee? Could plants be using electrical signals to attract pollinators or even defend themselves against herbivores?
These are all questions that scientists are only just beginning to explore. But one thing is for sure, the world of plant-insect interactions is far more complex and interconnected than we ever imagined. And understanding the role of electrical fields could completely change our understanding of these relationships.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? There could be entire networks of communication happening right under our noses, in the soil, in the air, everywhere, and we're only just beginning to tune in. It's both exciting and a little humbling.
I agree. It reminds us that there's always more to learn, more to discover, and more to be amazed by in the natural world. And sometimes the most groundbreaking discoveries come from simply asking the right questions and being open to the unexpected.
Okay, that's a fantastic note to end on. So to all our listeners out there, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep your minds open to the possibilities. Who knows what electrifying secrets you might uncover? It's amazing to think about, all these electrical conversations happening around us, and we're just starting to listen in.
It really is a paradigm shift. We've spent so long studying the visible world that we almost forgot to look for those invisible connections.
It makes me think about all the times I've walked through a forest or a meadow, completely oblivious to this whole network of electrical signals buzzing beneath the surface. It's like there's this secret world operating on a frequency we can't even perceive.
And yet it's so crucial to the survival and success of so many species. Makes you wonder what other hidden layers of communication and interaction might be out there just waiting to be discovered.
Okay, now I'm really going down the rabbit hole. But before we get too lost in speculation, maybe we should touch on some specific examples of how this knowledge about insect electroreception is already being applied in the real world.
Good point. We've hinted at some of the potential applications in agriculture and robotics, but there are some really exciting developments happening right now.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Well, one area that's particularly fascinating is the use of spider silk in electronics. Remember how we talked about spider silk being incredibly strong, flexible, and conductive?
Yeah, it's like nature's super material. But how does that translate to electronics?
Well, scientists are exploring ways to use spider silk in everything from flexible circuits and sensors to even biodegradable electronics. Imagine a world where we could have electronic devices that are not only incredibly durable and efficient, but also completely decompose back into the environment after they're no longer useful.
That's an incredible idea. So we could have high-tech gadgets without the electronic waste.
Exactly. It's a perfect example of how understanding the natural world can inspire innovative and sustainable solutions to some of the challenges we face.
It's like nature is handing us a blueprint for a better future if we're smart enough to pay attention.
I couldn't have said it better myself. And it's not just about spider silk. Researchers are also exploring the potential of other insect-derived materials for electronics like chitin from insect exoskeletons.
Wow, so the future of electronics could be inspired by insects. Who would have thought?
It just goes to show that the more we learn about the natural world, the more possibilities open up. And it all starts with curiosity, observation, and a willingness to think outside the box.
Well, I think it's safe to say that this deep dive has certainly sparked my curiosity. It's incredible to think that something as seemingly simple as static electricity can play such a complex and vital role in the lives of insects.
I agree. It's a reminder that there's often more to things than meets the eye. And the more we delve into these hidden worlds, the more we realize how much we still have to learn.
And how interconnected everything is. It's not just about insects using electricity, it's about how that electricity influences their interactions with plants, with other animals, and even with the environment as a whole.
Exactly. It's all part of a delicate balance, a web of life that we're only just beginning to understand.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this electrifying deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the basic principles of static electricity to the incredible ways insects use it to navigate, pollinate, communicate, and even defend themselves. We've explored the potential implications of this knowledge for fields like agriculture, pest control, robotics, and even electronics. And we've touched on the responsibility we have to use this knowledge wisely and to minimize our impact on the delicate balance of ecosystems.
But most importantly, I hope we've sparked a sense of wonder and curiosity in our listeners. The natural world is full of surprises, and there's always more to learn. So keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep your minds open to the possibilities.
And who knows, maybe one of you listening will make the next groundbreaking discovery about the electrifying world of insects. Until then, happy buzzing.